So this, I hope, I really believe that this podcast is going to put some things in perspective that I've been talking to you about and building towards, that we are in a real hot civil war with people being killed like Charlie Kirk and people being injured like ICE agents and things like that, and people being arrested like Antifa members. And I know everything seems normal, right? If you live your life, you don't really see this in person, but it's not normal. It's not normal. We're under attack. And I'm going to hopefully connect quite a few dots for you guys so that you're going to want to share this podcast more than most that you share in the past. Okay? So let me start with this. I posted this video at We the People convention in our video section, and it's a video where Glenn Beck is basically trying to explain that the left is moving to overthrow our government right now, today. And for those of you, who don't know Glenn Beck like we do in the Tea Party movement, we grew up with Glenn Beck. We grew up with Glenn Beck at 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Fox is when we first got introduced to him. And he would do these chalkboard lectures. You can see the chalkboard in the background where he would explain, Howard and Plivin and overflowing the system and all these, complex political, psyops. And the fact is he was right all along. And now, 16 years later, it's all coming to fruition. But in this video, which you have to watch and you have to share, he talks with Peter Schweizer, who is also really important. It says, a new wave of No Kings protests kicked off across the country on October 18th. Organizers claimed a whopping 7 million people spontaneously rallied to protest Trump's authoritarian policies. And we talked about, well, that may not be true, but even it is, it's only 2% of the population. But why is that important? While many mocked white-haired boomers holding absurd signs, the strategists behind color revolutions know the precise percentage of population involvement needed for a successful coup. You know what that percentage is? 3.5%. They're at 2%. They're trying to get the rest, and we're going to talk about how they intend to do that. And they're inching closer to that goal on American soil. Glenn Beck and renowned researcher Peter Schweizer traced the shadowy multi-million-dollar funding behind No Kings, revealing the who's who of left-wing activism. The Tides Foundation, George Soros, Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, Arabella. Peter's team at Government Accountability Institute uncovered a network infrastructure bigger than No Kings designed to create social destabilization. Social destabilization is the goal. It's another word for chaos. Chaos in your life, in the streets. The evidence trail is there, but can Trump's FBI and DOJ stop the revolutionaries before it's too late? And you got to watch that video. And then there's an article that I talked about last week that says, what is the Democrats' shutdown engine's real goal? Its goal is to overthrow the United States. Okay? So I'm going to play this video for you. For those of you who think, Tom, yeah, come on, it's not real. Watch this, folks. Watch this video.
November 5th in Washington, D.C., the largest sustained protest in Washington, D.C.'s history. This needs to be what happens right now. We're organizing millions of people to get to Washington, D.C., stand and surround the White House, surround the Capitol building, surround the illegitimately fascist Supreme Court, and not stop until the Trump regime is driven from power. We start on the 5th, we go to the 6th, we go to the 7th, we go to the 8th. We keep pushing every day, building and growing our numbers until masses of people are standing around the White House, around the Capitol building, around this fascistly packed Supreme Court until we drive the Trump fascist regime from power. Like I said, I'm with Carlos. We can't get washed away with trying to take on too much, trying to take on this and then that and then this, and then trying to do everything all at once. We need to unify behind one simple demand. One simple demand is Trump must go now. Again, we cannot wait for election cycles, politicians, or the Supreme Court. We need to rise up into our millions right now, beginning on November 5th.
Trump must go now. they're going to surround the White House, Congress, the Supreme Court with quote unquote millions of people November 5th, 4 days from now, because Trump must go now. Now. We don't have time to wait for election cycles, right? Did you hear him? We don't have time to wait for that. Okay? Yeah, these are the 2% of the Marxists who lecture us constantly on how they are defending democracy, as they state flat out in this video that they are planning to overthrow the duly elected president and government of the United States on November 5th. Lock them up. Lock them all up. Listen, they convicted the Proud Boys after January 6th for nothing like this. How can those people in that video, in that room, not be in prison right now? If that's not insurrection, what the hell is? If that's not sedition, what is? These people need to be stopped. My point to you is they're not fooling around, okay? And so, there's even, I want to say to you guys things like, well, look what's going on in Chicago and Los Angeles and New York and various states. They're actually trying to pass laws in California where they can arrest ICE agents, right? That's back to the Civil War. The Supreme Court rulings about whether states can arrest federal police officers who are enforcing federal law goes back to the Civil War insurrection by the same damn Dems. But now it's the Marxists. They're not kidding, kids. So the whole deal is about how do you get to 3.5%? The answer is SNAP. What happens when food stamp funding is paused by the Dem shutdown? What's the goal here, kids? Well, I posted this article on our website because it gives you the facts. Okay, the average SNAP benefits is $187.20 per month per person. It costs about $350 per month to feed an adult in the United States. Okay, so this is what the big fight is about. Food stamps are set to be paused on November 1st. Today, some 42 million Americans will not receive benefits through the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program until Congress approves new funding, quote unquote, the Democrats reopen the government. Okay? Congress made money available for SNAP for October before failing to reach a new government funding agreement, which resulted in the government shutting down on October 1st. There is not enough money to pay full SNAP benefits for the approximately 42 million SNAP recipients in November. The USDA says the bottom line is the well has run dry. Now, 2 courts have ordered Trump to pay it anyway. And Trump says, last night on Truth Social, he goes, President Trump on Friday said he's asking the court to clarify how we can legally fund SNAP as soon as possible after a federal judge in Rhode Island orders his administration to continue funding the program during the shutdown. Trump said, I do not want Americans to go hungry just because the radical Democrats refuse to do the right thing and reopen the government. If we are given the appropriate legal direction by the court, it will be my honor, Trump said, to provide the funding, just like I did with the military and law enforcement pay. The bottom line is these courts have no jurisdiction. They can't order the government to make payments. What they're saying is that the emergency funds that are in place are for a hurricane. You know, like the one that just went through Jamaica and Cuba this week, that there's emergency funds to bring food and stuff to Americans after like a natural disaster. Well, they want to use those funds to pay the SNAP bill. But then what happens if there's a disaster? So the Trump administration is going to have to appeal it because it's illegal. The order's illegal. Oh, but the Democrats, they want to say, Trump could give you your food stamps, but he's not because he hates you. He doesn't hate anybody. He's trying to help these people. The Marxist left is trying to drive these people into the streets and cause riots. That's the next 1.5%. Watch this video by a very bright and articulate young man that I saw on X.
If the Democrats get their way, then they will hold the government hostage and then force Trump into a situation where he has to take executive orders in order to either open up the government or fund the country in some way, shape, or form. We are in a constitutional crisis. But make no mistake, the Democrats are fully prepared to let the country sink rather than to give up any little remnants of power that they have. This big tantrum that they're throwing is just an example of how they act when they don't get their way. They're not budging. Trust and believe they have no intention on budging. But maybe that's what they want. Maybe they want to throw us into a constitutional crisis. Maybe they want to force Trump's hand to make him look like a dictator, to make him look like their no kings accusations were actually true, to make him look like a dictator. I mean, think about it. At this point, they don't have many options. I mean, what do? Allow Trump to continue his next 3 years doing all the things that he's wanted to do for this country? Look at how much that has already been done. Imagine another 3 years. There's no way they're going to allow that to happen. So what do?
Yeah, what do? We fight them. I think this young man is right. And you can see by the video of the insurrectionists saying, we can't wait for elections. We've got to get rid of Trump now. You know why? Because I said to you that I think the Democratic Party is going to cease to exist. And next year, when we crush them in the midterm elections, locally, statewide, federally, you're going to see that they're gone because they're there. They've been gutted. They have no candidates. They have no policies. They have no plans. Their whole focus is the destruction of the United States of America because it's funded by the communist Chinese. Okay? I say that every week. You people are new. You may think that's wrong. Just go to wethepeopleconvention.org, right? And click on the button that says the Dems are owned by the communist Chinese. Because they are. And so is much of Republicans. Okay? It's a global war to defeat the West, and you can't defeat the West if you don't defeat the United States. They are out of cards. That's why next week they're saying they're going to bring millions of people to Washington to get Trump out now. Because if Trump keeps doing the things that we elected him to do, close the border, clean up the voter rolls, drill baby drill, end the foreign wars, they're freaking done. Okay? They're done. So he said, what do? Yeah, here's a good idea. Pentagon orders quick reaction force of 500 troops per state, according to this report. We've talked about the fact that President Trump months ago started positioning troops. Why? To fight the left. You think Antifa and BLM aren't their troops? You think the violent illegal immigrants who came in from Venezuela and other countries, who are rapists, murderers, thieves, drug dealers, you think they aren't part of their army? Get a clue. That's why ICE is arresting them, to diminish their army. That's why DOJ and FBI are trying to find the funders and arrest them. The National Guard is building a quick reaction force of some 23,500 troops trained in crowd control and civil disturbance that can be ready to deploy to U.S. cities by early next year, according to a leaked memo reported by multiple outlets on Wednesday. A leaked memo, yeah, I bet. The October 8th memo, signed by National Guard Bureau Director of Operations, Major General Ronald Burkett, orders the National Guard from nearly every U.S. state, Puerto Rico, and Guam to train 500 service members. States with smaller populations, such as Delaware, will have 250 troops in force, while Alaska will have 350. A previous Pentagon memo issued in September and revealed by The Guardian had mandated that the Washington, D.C. National Guard create a specialized military police battalion within it, dedicated to ensuring safety and public order in the nation's capital as the circumstances may necessitate. Oh, you mean like November 5th? This coming week, you think maybe? The latest document also stipulates that the Pentagon will send military trainers to the states and territories, so the Quick Reaction Force will be operational by January 1st. Each state will also be given 100 sets of crowd control equipment to be used to support this requirement, such as tasers, pepper spray, batons, and body shields. We're at war, kids. We're at a civil war. And the stakes are the whole country. The stakes are the whole country. Okay? So let me continue to give you the evidence you need to see. Because there is, on social media, there are tons of videos, most of which are so profane, I chose not to bring them to you in this podcast, of mostly black people, mostly black women saying, you cut off my snap and I'm going to be robbing stores. And if you try to stop me, I'm going to kill you. Okay? We're going to create riots because you take my snap. Oh, really? Okay. And here's a video that I felt was tame enough to share with you, because this one is a woman who's working for the Marxist left. She's messaging for them. Listen to this.
And next week, when millions of people are going to have to resort to possibly stealing in order to feed themselves and their families, and the government complains, because they will complain about the crime rate going up, even though they're the ones who fucking did it. Make sure you point your anger at the system and the people at the top, because they're the ones who took the food away from families and poor people and starving children. The poor people just want to eat. They just want to survive like the rest of us. They just want to keep living like the rest of us. So when you see them stealing, because you will, because they're going to have to, make sure your anger isn't directed at the individual.
Yeah, make sure you direct your anger at the institutions, at the government, because they did. Oh, the Democrats didn't do this. The Marxist left didn't plot this. This is not an accident. Glenn Beck, it's a color revolution. That's a real term, folks. It stands for something. They all wore yellow on the No King's Day because the color they chose for this revolution is yellow. The same people doing it here in the US right now have done it in Eastern Europe, in Romania, and other Eastern European countries. Our CIA, the people who use these same tactics to steal elections and overthrow duly elected people in other countries, those lefty SOBs are doing it here. And that woman is part of it. Okay? But here's the deal, as I wrote on X. Anyone who steals food because their SNAP benefits were paused needs to be arrested and have their SNAP taken away forever. Breaking the law is not how Americans handle a problem. The average SNAP recipient gets $187.20 per month, per frickin' month, okay? $50 a week. If you don't have a family member or a friend who can lend you $200 until the government is reopened, then you have way bigger problems than losing your SNAP benefits. Go to your nearest church or synagogue and ask for help. Go to a local food bank. Go get a damn job. How many hours do you have to work a month to make $200 at $15 an hour? You can make that in one day doing Uber. This is all part of the Marxist plan to create riots and civil unrest. It's not going to work because Donald Trump is way smarter than you fools. Way smarter than you fools. But you need to share this so people understand. This is not an accident. This is planned. But I want to be clear here, because the other part of their tactic is to split us up, divide us among races. Oh, it's all black people who are taking SNAP and stuff. That's not true. Most of SNAP goes to poor white people, but a higher percentage of blacks are on it. And that's wrong. The whole thing is wrong because, yeah, the woman said, because the government did that to you. Yeah, you know who did that to you? The commies in our government. The Democrats in our government over all the last 30, 40 years did that to you. Why? To make you dependent, to make you a frickin' slave, to force communism on you and destroy your ability to live the life you want to live and be responsible for your own food. Right? You think I'm wrong? Okay. Watch this, okay? This is a very interesting 4-minute video. Listen to this, man.
Everyone has an opinion. Here's mine. SNAP benefits are set to end here on October the 31st. And I think I've had a change of heart. I went from feeling sad, feeling heartbroken for so many people who would be negatively impacted by the loss of these SNAP benefits. But now that it's gone on for maybe about 2 weeks or so, and we've seen so many different people weigh in and give their perspectives on things, and we've allowed the Democrats to continue to talk themselves into a bigger hole than they ever could have possibly imagined, my mindset has changed a bit. Bruh, I hope they don't bring it back. I'm good with it being gone. You motherfuckers use this shit like a crutch. You use it like a crutch. You break the law with it, commit federal offenses. When you buy it, you buy the worst possible shit for your health, making you a bigger liability to the public, a bigger responsibility on the public, because not only can you not feed yourselves, you also can't afford to pay for your own medical care. So now the taxpayer is caught in this doom loop where we constantly have to pay for people to eat, and then they eat the wrong shit, which causes them to have poor health, and then we have to go behind them and pay for their health care. Now, before we say, oh, but your health ain't... Fair point. I'm also not seeking government assistance. Not now, nor have I ever been a recipient of SNAP benefits. So this doesn't make me a better or worse. It's just using the government for assistance was never in my purview. It was never in my wheelhouse of things to do to survive. Never once thought about it. Never once considered it. But I've also had a job since I was 14 years old. So that is what that is. Now, for all of my ghetto, ratchet baby mamas with the biggest sense of entitlement in the world, yeah, I'm not going to say I wish that you starve. I'm not going to say that I wish your children starve. But I will say this. Isn't this par for the course? When you give the government the ability to feed you, you also give them the ability to starve you. And let me make another point. So many of you women, especially black women, you mouth off. You mouth off. You run your fucking lips. You talk shit. You put your man down. You have these babies out of wedlock, knowing that you can't take care of them because in your mind, daddy government will always be there to cover the losses. Daddy government will always be there to clean up the spilled milk. Well, guess what? Daddy government died. Now what you gonna do? I don't want to hear shit about Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all this other weird shit, and how we gonna feed our family and all that. Bruh, there was a point in time when I would have been willing to listen to that, where you may have been able to tug at my heartstrings, because people are really struggling, and there are people out there who do really need the assistance. But overall, if you look at what the welfare state has done to the black population, it has destroyed us. It has ruined our ability to fight for ourselves. It has ruined our ability to provide for ourselves. It has ruined our wherewithal to go out there and overcome adversity and stand tall in tough situations. It has destroyed our children. It has destroyed our families. It has destroyed our communities. And all y'all continue to do is want to line up day in and day out and bitch and moan that you can't get free shit instead of going out there and making something happen. The 5 to 10 minutes that you spent making this TikTok video, which I'm doing the same thing. The 5 to 10 minutes that you spent making this TikTok video, you could have been thinking of different ways to hustle up some food or a few dollars to buy some food to put in your household.
That's straight talk. That's the truth. It was designed that way. Lyndon Johnson, the Great Society, destroyed the black community, put them on the government plantation forever. But guess what? That's changing because Donald Trump is leading black men, particularly, out of the ghetto and into America, the real America that you and I live in. And that's the path forward. But we got to win this fight right now, kids, because it's all on. And that means you and I have to give every ounce of support we can give to President Trump as he has to deal with this and try to fight a civil war without destroying the country and killing, like in the first Civil War, 500,000 Americans. No easy task. But let me drive some more nails in this argument for you to understand, to see what's really going on. We are not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. We're in a different place in time. We need to think differently. Dem-aligned union breaks ranks, demands end to government shutdown. And the Washington Post did an article saying, this is wrong. The Democrats have shut down the government. They're trying to blame Trump, but they're holding America hostage for their own political gains. I heard a congressman say the other night that this isn't a political fight. This isn't a policy fight. We're not talking about how to fund the total mess that Obamacare is. This is Republican policies against Democrat politics. And so here's this union, a very powerful union. Dem-aligned union breaks ranks, demands end to government shutdown. The American Federation of Government Employees, the nation's largest federal workers union, is once again applying political pressure in Washington, demanding that Democrats abandon their current negotiating stance and pass a clean funding measure to end the government shutdown. AFGE President Everett Kelly, whose union represents more than 800,000 federal workers who all frickin' vote for Democrats, okay, and DC government employees urged Congress to reopen the government immediately under a short-term continuing resolution and ensure full back pay for federal employees. We'll talk about that in a second, both for those who have been furloughed and those forced to work without pay. He said, it's time to pass a clean continuing resolution and end this shutdown today. No half measures and no gamemanship. Put every single federal worker back on the job with full back pay today, he said in a statement. Delta Airlines came out and said it. The air traffic controller system is collapsing. They don't care. This guy used to drive the Democratic Party. When he spoke, they listened. When the union said jump, they jumped. These are Democrats. They're commie frickin' Marxists. They only use the unions to get power so they can then abuse you. Do you see? They're not Democrats. And you can see that when the union says, open up, our people are getting hurt, and they don't care, you know the game is up. You know that they are on the ropes. And when you know they're on the ropes, you got to press to take them out, okay? And it's just really important. So what did Trump do? This is very interesting. Trump urges Senate GOP to eliminate the filibuster to end the shutdown. President Donald Trump on October 30th called on Republican lawmakers to eliminate the filibuster to bring an end to the government shutdown that has stalled federal funding for several agencies for more than 30 days. Basically saying, change the rules so just the Republicans could vote to pass the budget because we have over 51%. We have 53 senators. We could lose 2. Vance could vote. We could do it. The filibuster is a procedural tactic used to block legislation from advancing. It can prolong debate and delay or prevent a vote on a bill, resolution, amendment, or other debatable question. Filibusters on most legislation can be ended only if at least 60 senators or 3/5 of all sworn-in members vote to invoke cloture. In the Truth Social post, Trump said that while returning from his trip to Asia, he found himself wondering why Republicans were allowing Democrats to shut down the government. He said the Republicans could invoke the nuclear option, which refers to a legislative procedure that allows the Senate to bypass the filibuster, to stop the government shutdown from continuing. It's now time for Republicans to play their Trump card, as only Trump can say, and go for it. Go for what is called the nuclear option. Get rid of the filibuster and get rid of it now, Trump said. Trump noted that Democrats had previously tried to end the filibuster during the Biden administration because they knew the tremendous strength that terminating the filibuster would give them. Their effort failed when Joe Manchin from West Virginia and Kyrsten Sinema from Arizona, who later became independents, wouldn't vote with them. They tried to do it, and I got news for you. They'll do it again if they ever get power. The goal is to make sure they never get power again. The president noted that Democrats would likely eliminate the filibuster if they return to power and urged Republican lawmakers to seize the opportunity to hold a majority to act now. Well, now we are in power, and if we did what we should be doing, it would immediately end this ridiculous, country-destroying shutdown, the president said. If the Democrats ever came back into power, which would be made easier for them if Republicans are not using this tactic now, then the Democrats will exercise their rights and it will be done on the first day they take office. We're fighting to win, kids. We are 100% behind this. I am 100% behind this. You should be 100% behind this. You should call your senators and say yes. Because what can happen? If you get rid of the filibuster, we can then change the election rules. We can change the immigration policies. We can get rid of all the lefty crap in our government. They couldn't stop us. And yes, that's not what we want in our government, but we're at war. Look what Abraham Lincoln did during the Civil War. He had to suspend habeas corpus. He arrested governors. He was at war. He was trying to save the country. Donald Trump is trying to save the country. You and I are trying to save the country. The Democrats, Marxist, communist, leftists, funded by the Chinese, are trying to destroy us.